Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was one of my favorite games ever as a kid. This came off the back when I was first introduced to Assassin's Creed 2 from a friend, absolutely loved it, and found out that it wasn't too long until Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was going to be released. I instantly put in a pre-order, and by the time it was released, I ended up completing it within just a few days. I absolutely loved it and continued to go and replay it time and time again. It has been quite a few years since I last played it, but whenever anyone talks about Brotherhood, I always say that it is one of the best, but I actually don't know if it really is. I don't know whether or not I'm inflating the idea of Brotherhood being amazing purely because of nostalgia. So to actually put this to the test, I decided to replay it. But before I give you my opinion on Assassin's Creed Brotherhood in the present day, we need to highlight today's video sponsor. This is Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy is a premium energy and focus supplement designed to optimize your mental and physical performance. And to really get the most out of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, I decided to use Rogue Energy beside it, and it certainly helped with the experience. It promises to help boost energy whilst still being delicious. You quite simply use one of the many flavorings available and then add either cold water or milk. And yes, milk is an option. Do not judge me for using it. It is absolutely amazing. The really cool thing is that if you're unsure if this is something that you would like, you could always just claim a free taster. That is available using the link in the description. And if you find out that you love it just as much as I do, you can proceed with a purchase and use code GTG to get 10% off every purchase. So links to everything can be found in the description down below. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was released on the 16th of November 2010, and even though it's 13 years old, I'm still going to say this, spoiler alert. That way no one can complain whilst we're going through the story, which is a main element to talk about. The Assassin's Creed Brotherhood story starts immediately where Assassin's Creed 2 ended. You escape the area with Mario, and it leads to this moment where Ezio decides whether or not he should be getting rid of the Apple of Eden, in which he decides not to. Instead, both Mario and Ezio take it back to the Auditory Villa, in which you go through a bit of an introduction as you re-meet all the previous characters that you met within Assassin's Creed 2. But things quickly ramp up. The Auditory Villa is under attack from all angles, and the man leading the charge is Cesare Borgia. Despite best efforts, Cesare and his army end up winning, completely destroying everything and also setting Ezio back to pretty much the basics. All that work that you put into Assassin's Creed 2 to get the very best armor, in the case of me where I did go for Altair's armor, completing all the sills. All that time and money spent to try and get all of that gear, and now it's all gone. You are back to the bare roots, even your hidden blade is broken. And now it is time to rebuild. As much as I would love to have all of my gear and continue Assassin's Creed Brotherhood as if nothing happened, it also makes a lot of sense. But overall, the intro was amazing, and it did also lead to a pretty decent story all the way through. Whereas Assassin's Creed 2 followed Ezio as a young man to eventually build towards a master assassin, Brotherhood takes it in the opposite way of where you see the assassins being completely destroyed, especially right at the beginning, to eventually rebuilding again. And this time you're building it far beyond what was originally there, because you're bringing in assassin recruits. You would be able to recruit different assassins after you liberate the area. In order for you to liberate an area, there will be a Borgia Tower. You will need to kill the leader of that area, and also you'll need to set this tower on fire. This will give you access to unlock more recruits for your assassin order as you become stronger, and the recruit missions are pretty basic. In most cases, you just need to fight off 2 or 3 enemies, save one of these potential recruits, and they'll align with you, offer their services as an assassin. The other thing that happens by destroying these towers is that you can also unlock the surrounding area of content. And there's actually a very easy way for you to become insanely rich in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and that is just by using whatever money that you have. And of course, at the beginning of the game, you have next to nothing, but you'll buy into one of these buildings. This could be a blacksmith, a doctor, a tailor, it could be art supplies, you name it. Whatever buildings are there, you'll buy into them, you'll renovate them. Once you renovate them, they will give you nowhere near as much money as what you initially put in, but this really starts to ramp up. As time goes on, you will be making thousands every 20 minutes. It's pretty cool, and you will be able to buy some amazing gear with all the money that's coming in, but on top of that, it really adds to the progression, and this is why I wanted to talk about it, because it also links into the story. Even though you directly bringing in assassin recruits, it's not actually needed for you to go through the story of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, it still leads to the progression side of things. As said, you are completely torn down at the beginning, with Ezio nearly dying. This just happens within the intro, and as time goes on, you rebuild. You tear down the towers, you remove the Templar influence within the area, you build up the Assassin Brotherhood by bringing in recruits, and you can make a lot of money doing so as you renovate different buildings, bring in more money, and that also helps with the progression of Ezio's gear. Whilst on the subject of gear, we need to talk about combat. One of my complaints within Assassin's Creed 2, and it was a complaint from the fanbase back when AC2 was first released, is that you end up just whipping your sword around, and in a lot of cases, especially once you're dealing with better enemies, stronger enemies, they're just going to block it. But when they do block it, they still lose health. You end up getting into this repetitive loop, especially dealing with these tougher enemies where they keep blocking it, but you just keep on spamming. They get caught in a corner and you keep on spamming over and over again, and all you're waiting for is a finishing move from Ezio to finally just assassinate this target, but it never happens. You end up just whipping the sword left, right, they block every single one, but the health still continues to go down. Within Brotherhood, Ubisoft actually paid attention to this detail. They did add in more weapons which can be used, and with those weapons, they also added more animations. All of this was nice, but they also added 2 extra mechanics on top. Firstly, if you do get into that situation where you just keep on spamming a button and the enemy keeps on falling backwards, eventually Ezio will complete an assassination, which will take them down, making the conflict a lot quicker, especially when you are already dominating the fight. You don't need to extend it any longer. The second thing that they did is that they also added a combo system. A combo system where if you perform a parry and then a finishing move on an enemy, you can immediately start looking at other enemies nearby to immediately perform a finishing move. And if you do that successfully with no one attacking you or interrupting you in between, you can keep this going. It ends up being a chain reaction. This made a lot of fights insanely fun, and even though there was a lot of situations where you probably could call in a recruit to just run in and assassinate one of your targets, it was so much better for you not to, because it was entertaining to just combo or chain kill all of these different enemies. You end up taking down 10, 20, 30 all in a single moment, and these ended up being some of the best missions. It's still not the best combat that we've seen throughout the whole series, but it was incredibly fun, and after starting to play this after the back of playing Assassin's Creed 2, you saw massive improvements. With parkour, there isn't anything that really stood out to me. It felt exactly like the same with Assassin's Creed 2, and that really wasn't a complaint. Assassin's Creed 2 had fun parkour. It was annoying in certain places where you weren't able to climb trees or climb the edges of cliffs. But other than that, when going building to building, it was pretty decent. You do end up needing to rebuy all the equipment that you did have in the end of Assassin's Creed 2. As said, you lose it within the introduction. You end up getting used to a system and then it's completely stripped away at the beginning of this game for you to rebuild it all again. Now, talking to Leonardo is not actually a mission. He does play a part within one, but everything else, you need to speak to him within free roam. And he's not the only thing that you can do within free roam. This is another area which Ubisoft paid a lot of attention to. As said earlier, it was extremely easy to make money because you would be able to renovate different buildings, and there were loads of them. Once you set on fire one of these Borgia towers, you then have about 15, maybe 20 locations just in that area to renovate, and each one costs money. It's nothing too crazy, but as I said, it does end up making you more money, and by the time you get to mid-game, you're probably going to be rich. The recruiting side of getting assassins got repetitive, but it was cool using them. And you can also go to these pigeon coops where eventually you can actually send these assassins to complete various other missions. These are missions that you don't get to play in, you just send them off, and after a certain amount of time, depending how many assassins you sent and their level will depend on whether or not they've been able to complete it successfully. If you can complete them, you'll be gifted money, and you'll also be gifted XP, which can be used to level up your assassins. The best things to do though come down to probably the best missions within the game. And the best missions, in my opinion, are not actually story missions. They're actually free roam missions, and this is where you have the Lair of Romulus, which will allow you to unlock the armor of Brutus. This armor is the best armor in the game, and it plays out very similar to what you have within Assassin's Creed 2, where you try and get the Altair armor. Instead of you completing these assassin temples where eventually you will get a seal at the end, and that seal can be used to unlock the armor once you collect all of them, it's the exact same thing, except this time you're getting a key from a Lair of Romulus, and I believe there's 6 located around the world. Once you have all 6, you will be able to unlock this armor. The missions are pretty sick. The other ones though have nothing to do with unlocking any type of armor. These are Leonardo's war machines. Within Brotherhood, Leonardo is now working for the Templars. He has to pay the bills, but he is giving you intel, including some of his blueprints, which are being used to create war machines. This is similar to the fly-in mission within Assassin's Creed 2 where you use the fly machine, except now they've been upgraded and weaponized. With every single one of these missions, you're taking out the usual area, you go into a completely new location, and you need to find the blueprints, destroy them, and you also need to destroy all of the machines that they've already built. And it's pretty fun. The worst missions that you will come across within the game are tailor missions, and there's a lot of them. This was during a time where Ubisoft just kept on piling them in, and to be honest, I say during a time, they still do this. A lot of the missions that you go through will be tailor missions within the Assassin's Creed franchise, and they're nothing special. If we were to look past these, the next worst lot of missions are actually with the Apple of Eden. For some people, they really enjoyed this, but for me, when actually getting the Apple of Eden, which is later on within the game, you can actually use the apple to kill enemies, but it also means that you're not able to select any of your other weapons. And as said earlier when we were talking about combat, it was fun when you chain killed all of these enemies after completing a successful parry kill. And even though you feel powerful using the Apple of Eden, there's nothing special about it in a way of gameplay. You end up just holding it, running around in circles, and then holding down the attack button. And the longer that you hold it down, the more enemies it will kill, but the more health it will drain from you. And when you first get the Apple of Eden, for you to get full 100% synchronization on a mission, you need to complete it without losing health. And because you can't change weapons, and because if you use the Apple of Eden, you end up losing your health, it means you have one option: run. There was a lot of missions where instead of me wanting to take down all of these enemies, I had to just run to escape, which definitely took the fun out of those missions for me. But I think this just comes down to personal preference. For me, I wasn't a massive fan of it. So, with everything that we've gone through, it's now time to link this back to that original question. Is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood that good as what I initially imagined, or was it just nostalgia? And the truth is, no, it's actually pretty good. I still rate this as one of the best Assassin's Creeds. It's not the only one up there. In my mind, it's still Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Those are the best 3 in my opinion. As we're replaying through all of them, Assassin's Creed 2 and also Assassin's Creed Brotherhood are still up there. This game is not as complete as what we've had in recent years for gameplay mechanics as well as content. Of course, it's not going to ever be that. This was a game designed back in 2010. But it is still a fun playthrough even to today's day. Of course, I wish mechanically it was to today's standards. Who doesn't? I would have loved to be able to climb trees or being able to climb a cliff, because realistically, it should be easy for that to be done. But there wasn't gameplay mechanics for this back then. But it does the simple things right, and because of that, it just becomes a fun experience from start all the way to finish. The characters were amazing, the story was well written, And gameplay wise, it was fun. There were complaints I had within Assassin's Creed 2, which many players in the community had at the time, which seemed to be mainly resolved within Brotherhood. Of course, there's new complaints, but still, it's aged incredibly well. And if you are thinking of going back to play through the Ezio Trilogy, I recommend doing so. It's been a time well spent in my opinion. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see a bit more from me, then I highly recommend clicking the next video on screen. This video will go through the best missions from each Assassin's Creed. It does mean that we talk a bit about Brotherhood, which we did mention within this video, but it also means that we're going to compare them to the best missions within every other Assassin's Creed. So if you do want to see that, that video is on screen right now. All you need to do is click that and I'll be over there to tell you what is the best mission from every Assassin's Creed.